As most of my viewers realize, there were a lot of highly hyped Super Famicom RPGs that never originally made it to North America. Seiken Densetsu 3, otherwise known as Trials of Mana, Star Ocean, and Final Fantasy V are all games that fit this bill. Many North American players were at least made aware of their existence back in the day through gaming publications and the budding internet. Other less notable titles, with little hype and smaller audiences, remained in Japan and suffered a similar fate. In fact, I can almost guarantee that you haven't heard of Dual Orb 2, which was developed and published by IMAX Corp for the Super Famicom in 1994. This was the definition of an RPG that lurked in the shadows. It was the sequel to the first Dual Orb game, which came out the previous year, but both remained in Japan and were never officially localized. Due to the gracious efforts of the Translation Corporation, however, Dual Orb 2 was fully translated via an English patch that was finished in 2016, which allows a whole new group of retro RPG enthusiasts a chance to play this one. After playing through the entire game, I can honestly say this was a solid translation, and the team chose a great font that doesn't interfere with the script or make it painful to read. So this is another great example where people work tirelessly on a volunteer basis to localize a game for all of us, so cheers to that. As always, I'll include a link to the patch in the video description. Dual Orb 2 takes place in a world that was once quite advanced. In the intro, a dragon emerges from a spherical object in the moonlit sky of a technologically driven modern civilization. The dragon seems intent on destroying the world. Meanwhile, a brilliant scientist on an airborne vessel named Alex attempts to save the planet from destruction. With the help of a woman named Sarah, the two decide to use the mystical orb to save the human race. Just as the dragon unleashes fire upon the earth, Alex walks into the orb's field, emitting a ray that evaporates the dragon. Though the world has been preserved, it was set back to a medieval setting without technological advancements, and civilization is forced to rebuild. The main protagonist of Dual Orb 2 is Aleth, a boy who was found as a newborn by the High Priest of the Kingdom of Garade. As he grows up, he befriends Lagnus, the Prince of the Kingdom, and the two are soon pulled into an epic adventure. As it turns out, the nefarious scientist that caused the destruction of the world is revived by an evil empire. Yep, there's an evil empire in this game too. What do you know? The combat system is a turn-based affair where the characters and enemies alternate attacks. Experience is gained in battle, and characters obtain new magical spells at specific levels. In this way, it's not too different from many other games, but the characters do represent various different archetypes. For instance, Aleth is a paladin of sorts that gains healing magic, Lagnus gains elemental-based offensive magic, and Sarah gets a combination of healing and attack magic. So the characters are unique, but they aren't customizable. One of the most standout aspects of the game is the weapon upgrade system. Unlike many RPGs, every weapon in Dual Orb 2 has levels, and the total number of weapons in the game is very low. Weapons are upgraded through blacksmiths in town that work in a manner similarly to the sharpening system in Suikoden 1 and 2. Generally speaking, these weapon upgrades are very expensive and progressively increase in cost. If you manage to upgrade a weapon to level 20, it becomes ultra powerful and gains its own special attack. I think this was a pretty fun and unique system that made the game feel less cookie cutter than it otherwise would have been. It also incentivized replay in a creative way that provided ultimate rewards for the player, so that's excellent. The battle menus are also easy to navigate, and the whole user interface is very well designed. My only gripe is that some of the magic animations take a long time to execute. It's not like summoning Knights of the Round in Final Fantasy VII or anything like that, but this fact does slow the experience down a bit. Normal attacks are extremely quick though, and this isn't a problem in every aspect of the combat. I think one of the best parts of Dual Orb 2 is that the battles are pretty impressive in general. The game adopts sprites that are more realistic looking than the anime-style graphics you'll find in other RPGs, and I thought it worked great for this one. The battle animations are pretty fantastic for their time, and each attack seems to use its own moving sprites. Enemy attacks also have their own animations, and enemies even fall down after they're defeated. I don't really know of another SNES title that does it like this. The overhead view is much less impressive in my mind, which isn't much better quality than what you'll get in Dragon Quest V or Final Fantasy V. It mostly matches what you'll find from other games from around that same time, but really is underwhelming compared to the combat visuals. Outside the battles, the standard navigational menus are also very simple and well designed. It's easy to change your equipment and heal your party in between fights, and Dual Orb 2 never makes things more complicated than they have to be. In my mind, the soundtrack punches way above the game's notoriety, which was a pleasant surprise as well. From the intro town theme to the ending song, the score is filled with tunes that will stick with you. If you're a fan of the Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest soundtracks, I think this one will be right up your alley. Unfortunately, the score is pretty small, with only about 30 total tunes. This wasn't exactly a small number for SNES games in general, but it was a small number compared to many other more notable RPGs. Like many RPGs, there is a world map, and Dual Orb 2's looks a lot like Final Fantasy VI's. In fact, for RPG fans, almost everything about this title will feel familiar, even if you haven't played it before. The one difference between this and other RPGs you'll notice right away though, is that you can actually move diagonally, which was pretty unique for the era. My biggest complaint, other than the long spell animation length, is that some of the boss battles are ridiculously tough. It's weird though, because I don't think Dual Orb 2 is too challenging overall, but a few of the boss battles are really overtuned in my mind, and you'll definitely have to do grinding to keep up with the difficulty curve. So yeah, you can experience a lot of enemy attacks that just kill your characters in one hit. That's just the way Dual Orb 2 is. So is it the most overlooked SNES RPG? Well, I think if it isn't, it's certainly on a short list of those that are. It has pretty much everything a fan would want. Interesting characters, great battle graphics and animations, amazing sound, and a fantastic story that will give you about 35 hours of gameplay. Dual Orb 2 is absolutely an underappreciated, must-play hidden gem of the SNES RPG library. So now I want to hear from you. If you've played Dual Orb 2, what did you like about it? If you haven't, does this look like an RPG worth playing? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell for more retro gaming content, and join my Discord community linked in the description. Also, please consider supporting my channel via YouTube's Join feature to receive member exclusives such as advanced videos and complete video transcripts.